Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live. As every Wednesday, we got a little bit of a rest, a break last week for Thanksgiving. How was your Thanksgiving, Orlando?
It was great.
It was great. You
Yeah,
gained pounds.
I gained 3.5 pounds.
Oh my
Oh my
God, that's crazy. Well, I gained 5 pounds, and it's
Wow.
okay. It's okay. I will.
Yeah.
I will lose it or keep it up gaining because now it's Christmas and New Year and all the holidays.
I'm definitely losing it. But anyway, welcome everybody. We got Santa Claus in the house. See, she's auditioning for a female Santa Claus at the mall.
Yeah, this
Nice.
afternoon I will record some Santa Claus
Let's see if we can
promos.
get Memorial City Mall in Houston to hire you.
Yeah, if you want to take a picture with me, it's free, completely free, and I will send the address later on.
And we're joined by Dr. Bobby Eberle. You guys have seen Bobby before. And Bobby, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to be here.
I'm glad you're in
yeah.
town.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's
And
fun.
Bobby was supposed to fill in for me today. I
Yeah.
was supposed to be up in Dallas, but then we got word that we have
Right, it's
other
like-
transportation accommodations.
Yeah.
So now
Well, you will be in Dallas,
Yeah,
regardless.
that's like-
I will be in Dallas.
Oh no, we
this
can't. We
afternoon.
can't let Bobby run the show. So you
That's
you
right.
had to come back for
Yeah.
us, right?
So it's been an interesting week. You know,
Yeah.
I was watching the news, which I rarely do.
mm-hmm.
And, we have the Omicron variant now, right, out of
Right.
Africa. And the Biden administration cancels all flights to and from Africa, seals that. You
Right.
know, had it been President Trump, it would have been racist.
Absolutely.
Right? When we
Right,
did it
right,
with
yeah.
China.
Of course.
Yeah.
But now the media is silent, right?
Right.
You know,
Yeah. He
it's
gives
like-
this speech, and he's talking about the Omicron variant, and as you folks know, I mean, there's a million variants. We're running out of Greek letters already, but he just shut it down, like you said, and it's no big deal.
No big deal.
Jen Psaki just defends it, but
CNN,
Trump,
New York Times.
yeah,
you
they all
know.
blasted Trump's racist, but Biden does the same thing, and all of a sudden it's okay.
It's a free pass. And
Yeah.
then I noticed Biden goes back to the stay in Mexico policy with respect to all the immigrants.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good
right,
policy.
Right.
you know?
And then he was flying in Minneapolis. He went to Minnesota yesterday. Got a couple quick questions from reporters, and one of them asked him, "Are you going to maybe do some more last minute bans on travel?" He says, "No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to take our allies off guard like Trump did." All you got to do is look at Afghanistan. That was the biggest taking your allies off guard that I've ever seen. And he honestly said that with a
This
straight
is
face.
an absolute three-ring circus in Washington,
Yeah.
D.C. right now.
Yeah,
At least in the executive branch.
It's going
Well,
crazy.
let's see what is going to happen the next days because, he always hear other people is the one that, telling him what to
Right.
to announce.
Yeah,
or
if he
what
doesn't
to
have his little
decide.
list, he doesn't even know what to
So
say.
Let's see what people are going to decide the following weeks when we get close to Christmas and New Year.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Bobby, so tell us a little bit what happened since the last time that you were here in the studio with your...
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, by the way. I loved being here. I love being in person with you guys. It's great. I did a little bit of traveling. I was up in New York. I was at the Newsmax studios, doing a couple appearances there in the newsroom, working with those guys. Hopefully doing some more with Newsmax. I think that's going well. And then just keeping on doing my show.
And also, we want to thank you because after that show, you became, volunteering your time, helping us with Leadership Latino.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in the last 2 classes teaching our students and the
Right.
people that participating about the media, how to manage media, how to be in front of camera, how to deal with media when it comes to politics, but in general. When people that wanted to run for office, but in general, how to deal with media, because this is a very, very important issue.
Right, and
so
I've-
thank you so much for
Well,
that.
I appreciate that. And what you guys have put together with Leadership Latino, I am just, for folks out there that want to get involved, these are classes that Orlando and Andrea are putting across the state where folks that want to get involved, either in the grassroots or as candidates, can get involved and learn from office holders and political activists, media people, social media folks as well. It kind of gets you prepared to make that jump into activism. And we see more and more Hispanics getting involved. I've got some stats here we can go over later on trends. And it's all moving in our direction. But it's because of people like you that are getting out there and saying, now's really the time to strike.
Yeah, not only getting involved, but I'm really amazed at the number of candidates that have filed to seek the Republican nomination that are Hispanic, Latino background. I've got a call yesterday from the former mayor of Del Rio.
Right.
And he's looking at 2 possible positions. Even though they understand after redistricting in Texas that those districts became a little tougher, but they're still optimistic that they can win in those seats, that they're
Right.
going to flip voters. And that's exciting. As you know, we won the John Lujan race in House District 118 in South San Antonio. So I'm encouraged. We have our Supreme Court Justice Eva Guzman, who's seems to be doing very well in her campaign. Here in Harris County, we have a couple of Latinos that have filed to run for county judge,
Right.
And there's more coming. So
Right.
that's really exciting, and that's exactly what we set out to do. That was our goal and our mission, is to increase the number of young conservatives participating in the electoral process.
Yeah.
And John Lujan was with us also in San Antonio last November 6th when we had our Leadership Latino class over there in San Antonio. The one that is coming up is at the end of January. It's in El Paso. We don't have yet the exactly date, but it's coming, and hopefully you can join us also, Bobby, over there.
Yeah, I'm in. You guys run a fantastic program, and what we've seen, even just in my involvement from Harlingen to San Antonio, is that it keeps getting bigger, and people are getting more excited. John Lewin at the last one, I mean, if we have candidates like that, we're not going to lose.
He was amazing.
He's just amazing,
inspired.
and we've got a great Hispanic candidate for Precinct 4 in Fort Bend County running this time around. I'm going to run for county chairman to try and turn the county around, because we have a golden opportunity to strike this time around, and I think we can do it if we organize and mobilize and communicate. But yeah, things are growing, and it's definitely moving our way.
Let's one of the commitments we want to get from you is before if you go national, you'll still come on and do the program with us.
I gotta. I
Pro
think.
bono.
Yeah.
Are you still gonna say hi to us? After
Yeah,
that?
I'll call you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
you will
put
answer our texts and
Yeah,
our calls,
well,
yeah?
we'll see.
All right.
Well, talking about Leadership Latino and the participation.
Well, hang on before we get into our guests. Is that what
Okay.
you want to do? I want to talk to Bobby and get his insight on Cuomo.
Oh
my God.
Yes.
It's
Yep.
such an incestuous pool. Now
We
the
saw the
question
breaking
is:
news yesterday.
Is CNN going to ban him? Are they going to do a Dan Rather on him, or are they going to temporarily suspend him?
Well, I think it's first of all, you gotta wonder how bad is it at CNN that they actually took action, because no one's watching them anymore. They've thrown away all journalistic integrity, and they keep these people going on. And I'm actually going to cover it later today. I think they might Jeffrey Toobin him. I mean, this guy Toobin was caught on Zoom, taking care of himself on camera, and they indefinitely suspended him, and now he's back.
Yeah.
And in fact, yesterday, Anderson Cooper, when he was announcing the suspension, he just finished talking with Toobin on the air and transitions to kicking Cuomo out. So it's kind of telling. I don't really know if Cuomo's done.
I don't either. I think
I
it's a slap on the hand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and you look at all the reporters inside the Beltway in Washington. They're either married to somebody that works at the State Department or somebody that's high up in the communications department at the White House. I mean, it's so incestuous.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why the news, I'm sorry, has lost all credibility.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's really bad, and you see it at CNN. And you see, when the story first broke, it's like I would never side with Fredo Cuomo at all. I mean, but you kind of almost understand that it's his brother, and if he's going to give some brotherly advice, no one's going to stop him from doing that. But what the Attorney General in New York put forth in all this investigation is you saw that Chris Cuomo is actually using his power as a journalist, going after sources, digging in, trying to discredit these women that came forward.
Yeah.
It's all right there. And he needs to go.
All right, and then how about Fauci? Do you think he's lost all credibility?
Oh my gosh, he lost it a long time ago.
I don't know why they keep him around.
Yeah, I think it's just a buffer to Biden, because they know that Fauci loves the media. I mean, CNN, MSNBC, they have Fauci has an open spot for him. So if things actually got better, if people return to normal, then there's no need for Fauci.
Yeah. Well, what is normal anymore?
Right, yeah, but he has to keep himself relevant. So,
but this is the guy that announced that, if we get to 68% of the population, 70% of the population, we can start to get back to normal. They still have the mask mandates on aircraft. Mm-hmm. They have all these signs at airports, social distancing, and I was on Southwest Airlines the other day. Right. I do fly United, I fly American, but I was on Southwest, and people are crammed together, 2 inches apart. And then, of course, you're on the cabin. They pass out drinks and sodas. Everybody's mask comes off. I mean, really? Do they really think we're that stupid? And I'm hoping that the federal government that keeps the mask mandate all the way through the next election. What a joke! I mean, and now the flight, the crew on the aircraft have become militant.
Mm-hmm.
They announce it 50 times. They'll call the police on you if they want to.
They're banning people from flying.
I have a friend that was flying,
yes.
and she took her mask off. She was enjoying a cocktail. They gave her or a soda. I don't care. And apparently the flight attendant didn't like her, and the flight attendant felt she wasn't, responding quickly enough to her commands. Mm-hmm. So what do they do when they land in LaGuardia? They call 4 police officers to take them off the airplane, and it's like the cops are like, well, first of all, and number 2, why is Homeland Security enforcing a healthcare regulation on it? I mean, it's such a joke.
Right, like they're terrorists or something flying on that.
Right. And it's saying that if we're still using a mask, or the federal government is requiring to use mask, she cannot fly.
Oh,
imagine.
My gosh. Well, it's just outrageous. Yeah. I mean,
but what about the border? But they can keep crossing the border without the vaccination,
that doesn't,
without a test.
There's no travel ban there.
Mask.
Well, I read something on Facebook today that said that, now that Biden has banned people from Africa from coming over, they can just get a flight to Mexico City, trek up, come to the border, and just get on a plane or a bus, and Biden will put them in whatever city they want.
That's right. I mean,
it's a joke.
Yeah, a vast majority of the people that escaped from Haiti, the Haitians, had already gotten asylum in South America. But then when Biden opened it up, they said, well, why don't we stop there? We'll just keep going. It's like you said, hey, we'll go down to South America, and then we'll head up there. It's all right. It's just nuts.
So you brought in some statistics. You want to go over them now, or you want to bring in our guest?
Oh, whatever you guys want to do.
All right, let's go. Andrea, he's probably busy. We're tying the young man up.
So talking about Leadership Latino, and the last Leadership Latino it was in San Antonio. So one of the participants is our guest today, and he is Julio Rojas-Aguilar. He is a manager of donor relations for the Institute for Humane Studies, and also he is from Peru. He came to the United States early in his childhood. So I'm assuming, Julio, ¿hablas un poco de español? Julio, ¿cómo estás? Bienvenido a TLC.
Bienvenido. Gracias.
Nice,
you guys.
Yeah. Julio, good to see you. And by the way, she meant that you're in charge of donor relations, not donor relations.
Okay. Well, Julio, you came early in your childhood, so you were able to attend school here in this country. And I came here when I was 25 years old, and I didn't speak English, but I still get in classes with Orlando Sanchez. 101 in TLC Live every Wednesday.
Well, Julio, good to have you. I had the opportunity to meet here in Houston, and I was very impressed with your the position that you hold and in the Humane Studies program. Tell us a little about your employer, what you do, what your goals are. Maybe a little bio on you. How you got to the States, and sort of. We'll get into the discussion about the importance of humane studies at universities.
Yes. Okay. So I'll start off with what the Institute does. So the Institute for Humane Studies is a nationwide organization based out of Arlington, Virginia. Its goal is to make the ideas of a free society regularly taught, teach, and developed in higher education. The way it came about is that Friedrich Hayek, in the 1960s, wrote a book, Intellectuals and Socialism. And he was talking about how intellectuals distribute ideas to the masses. And his book focused more on how intellectuals distributed ideas of socialism to the masses. And our founder, who was close friends with Hayek, thought that, that's a good pipeline for us to to pass the ideas of a free society to the next generation. So that's the blueprint that IHS works off of. We try to get the ideas of free society to continue to exist in higher education to pass to the next generation. So what we do is we partner, we support, and we connect faculty, professors across the nation. So we partner with them to hold campus events for the students, to teach them ideas that they never might have come across from. We support them financially because to be successful in academia, it's really expensive to just even get to be a professor, and then to maintain there to be a successful academic. It does have small fees, application, travel, sometimes big fees to like do your research. So we're there to help them out with that. And then we connect them because I'm sure many of us here, viewers or on the panel, know that it can be a little bit isolating if you're not surrounded by people that share your ideas or people that are hostile to your ideas. So by connecting them, we give them a network for them to feel empowered to stand for the ideas of a free society and be able to uh, know how to properly navigate academia to be able to spread those ideas. So our goal, again, is to try to spread the ideas of free society to the next generation. And then it's thanks to our donors that we're able to do this. We've actually had our 60th anniversary this year. So we've been around for a long time. We're nationwide. We're all over the nation at this moment on almost all major cities. I think we have about 2,400 faculty, which using averages of a regular academic career, 30 years, they'll teach about 24 million students. And that's very impactful, despite the fact that not all students might have an in-depth interaction with professors. Just the mere fact of having somebody that can show those ideas or even introduce them to something that they never heard before can be game changing, which would lead into, I guess, how I am sitting in front of you here. So as Andrea said, I came from Peru when I was 7, and I grew up in New Jersey. And being in New Jersey, very blue state, went to the public school system. I'm sure a lot of us here know how the public school system works, about what they teach in their history classes. They were saying the New Deal, the Great Society, war and poverty. Basically, big government, good government. If you want to just get something done, that's the way to do it. And I would say that I'm still the same person now that I am then at the core, that I want to help people be successful, be the best they can be. But before then, if that was all that I was taught, that's what I thought we had to do. We need a big, strong government to come in and take care of the people. And then all it took is one history teacher to kind of just pull up the thread, start thinking, okay, so you want to help the people that need the most help. What are the policies that are in place, and what are the results? He opened my eyes that a lot of the policies the government does have good intentions, however, negative results, not just negative externalities, but actually the goal that they're trying to shoot for, trying to help the poor, trying to help the needy, trying to help children, for the most part, hurts them. So I only had him for that 2 years of history. And then after that, I went off to college, studied economics at Rutgers University. You would think that in an economics class, I would learn the importance of property rights, the importance of free markets. Not so much. My economics teachers, for the most part, always leaned more towards government control. When the market fails, which they made it seem like it happens all the time, the government should be the one to step in. And that the way that I continued my education and the ideas of a free society was through videos that were produced by the Institute for Humane Studies. They were called Learn Liberty at the time. So I majored in economics. I graduated, went to work at a brokerage firm for 3 years. And then after that, I decided to, you know what, let me see, there's another organization that I feel like I want to contribute to, that I feel more passionate about. And I went to the website for the videos that I watched, Learn Liberty. And then it brought me over to IHS. And then I got connected with the Institute for Humane Studies that way. And then that's when I found out that their core purpose is trying to help professors and get them in front of students. And it really touched home with me, because that's literally how I ended up watching their videos, how I ended up working for them, and then how I'm in front of you today. It was because that one professor, one history teacher, that just was willing to speak out, not say, they weren't quiet about their beliefs. They were willing to say government might not be the answer. Quite frankly, government probably is the problem most of the time. Mm-hmm. and that's how I'm in front of you. I strongly believe in the power of the individual, and that if we are left to our own devices, that will create a prosperous society where even the most needy can rise up.
Julio, you're saying something very, very important that we've been discussing here in the program before about education. You were talking about the impact that this history teacher it took place in your life, and then later on, the college teachers also was, it put you in a different perspective. So that's what we're talking about education. How a teacher or the teachers can make a big impact and a big difference in your life, and the way that you grow, the mentality, and how do you choose what way to take in your life. So that's what we're saying all the time, and we emphasize the importance of the education and good education, not what is going on right now in the country.
Yes, yes. What I usually say to people that I meet, donors that I meet for the organization, I'm trying to make sure that they identify that there is a direct pipeline between what's happened in academia and what happens in society as a whole. The latest example would be critical race theory. That's something that was developed in academia many decades ago. It was unknown, it was on the fringes, but a decade after decade after decade, they've had enough students in front of them. They've had enough people that have continued in academia to add to that mass, and they've had enough students that went out into the real world and are now taking action and trying to spread these ideas. So that's an example that I usually say that idea came down the pipeline and now is in the public zeitgeist. Now, what IHS is trying to do is make sure that the ideas of liberty are the ones coming down from there. We've been able to grow significantly over the last couple of years as we're trying to help those professors to engage those students. The downside is that it does take a long time to make that change. Again, going back to critical race theory, it took a couple decades for it to be in the public zeitgeist. So the work we're doing is important. It's not like political elections where if you get your right guy in, then you can start seeing results immediately. But with the Institute for Humane Studies, it's long-term change that's going to stay. Usually, at least in my perspective, is that with politics, you can get your guy in, and then he can lose the next election, and then the next guy can completely undo what he did. So it's very much it flies with the wind, with what the electorate wants. And what we really need to is to get an educated population that values the individual, that doesn't value that I need to be taken care of, or somebody else should be taking care of these people. We need to have people that are willing to say, you know what, I'm going to pull myself up. I'm going to do what I need to do to take care of myself and my family, and hopefully have enough resources and success that I can contribute to my community and help those that need it instead of just passing the buck to the government.
Yeah, look, it's very interesting. I love how the liberals always come up with three-word acronyms, and of course, conservatives all jump on board, whether it's BLM, CRT, and,
Right.
and I don't even know. I mean, I've tried to do my research. Maybe Bobby and Julio can help out here, but I don't understand what critical race theory is. I mean, I know what some on the conservative side claim it is, but let's move CRT aside. I think that what the Institute and what Julio's talking about is absolutely critical, because I'm for education. I'm for teaching the real history. I'm for teaching the good, the bad, and the ugly. In other words, I am not for hiding the racism that occurred in this country. I'm not for hiding slavery. I'm not for hiding the fact that Mexican Americans in Texas were treated as poorly as African Americans. I mean, that's real history. And I think we need to discuss that. We need to teach that. We need to talk about what we have done as a society to improve that. I don't have a problem with real history. What I do have a problem with is indoctrination, which, as you know, Bobby, the left, and Julio knows this, has, as Julio says, they have a long runway. They plan 10 and 20 years down the line.
Absolutely.
We conservatives plan for the next election,
Right. Yeah.
So it's and what's refreshing to me right now is how I'm watching parents across the country. This started in Virginia, where Terry McAuliffe told parents in the state of Virginia, they get the hell out of your child's education.
Right.
We'll take care of that.
You shouldn't have a say.
That kind of backfired on them, right?
Yes,
and now
absolutely.
it's going on in Michigan. It's going all over the country. that parents realize they do not want their children indoctrinated into socialism because, guys, Julio, I, Andrea, Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, we've all experienced the socialist form of government.
Right.
And I know that some liberals say, oh, well, but we're talking about a softer, gentler type of socialism, sort of a European socialism. Bullcrap.
Right.
Right. There's nothing like the
Exactly.
competitive market.
Right.
And
Nothing like it.
So, what is critical race theory? I mean, tell the viewing public exactly what it is and what it is they try to accomplish, because I still don't understand that.
All right. You want me to jump in?
Yeah, jump
okay.
in.
Well, it goes back to theories that are predicated on a couple main concepts. One is that race infuses everything. Every aspect of society has a racial component in it, and the white male uses race to divide, to keep people down, and to advance his own cause. Race permeates everything. That's one of the key concepts. The other is you break society or societal elements down into an oppressor class and an oppressed class.
Yeah.
You're either one or the other, which right there should be a big red flag, because as we want to come together as a country, and you're faced with, well, I'm either here or here, it's built-in division, and that is one of the things that is so harmful about critical race theory.
Which has been the liberal modus operandi for years, right?
Absolutely.
Divide us among heterosexuals, homosexuals, divide us between black and brown and white
Right.
and Asian, and divide us between, male and female, divide us, in
It's
any category.
It's a key strategy, because if you look at the things that unite people are, I've been doing a lot of studying on moral psychology. I'm working on a theology degree, and you see that kind of like tribalism or groupism is kind of inherent in our nature. We like to get, that's why, you've had piercings and tattoos of tribes throughout the country. People like to come together, and they like to unite around a common goal or a common objective. In America, we have faith and family and freedom and patriotism. Everything the left does is designed to bring that down and destroy it. I mean, I was born the year that Martin Luther King was assassinated. So in elementary school and in middle school, his legacy was what we were taught. And it was a way to bring people together, to judge on merit and colorblind society. And we never forgot the Jim Crow laws or civil rights movement or slavery. All of that was taught as well. But now we see that. I honestly think that this is, Julio's point is that, now people that were taught that in graduate school are now becoming educators and administrators, and it's seeping into our college. But I also think, into our classrooms at lower levels. I also think that the left saw that, what? Those theories, those themes of Martin Luther King were actually working. In 2005, I gave a speech the other day. Gallup does a poll every year on race relations. 16% in 2005 thought race relations were bad. Now it's over 50%. Things were working, and it's like, we can't have races come together. We can't have unity among races. We need to divide, and this is why this push has gotten so extreme.
Yeah, I watch with great fascination a series on public television on PBS that I recommend. It's called Eye on the Prize.
Okay. And
it's the history of the civil rights movement in America.
Oh, that sounds great.
And I think everyone should watch that series. And one of the comments that were made in that program was, nobody has fought longer and harder for the freedoms and the rights articulated in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution than the African Americans,
Yeah.
And that's absolutely true.
Right.
And, there's a great book written by Martin Luther King, and it was entitled Strength of Love. And it was a compendium, a collection of all of his short sermons.
Right.
But he talks constantly about, accept your brothers and sisters as creatures of Christ. Don't everything he taught, right? It's the content of our character, not the color of our skin. And I think everybody ought to read that book, Strength to Love. And he put it together, having been jailed multiple times, fighting for the rights that are in the Constitution.
Exactly.
I don't have a problem with teaching that. I think it's fabulous that children ought to learn that, African Americans who came here, and they do have this common bond, is that because of the color of their skin, they were indentured servants. No one else has experienced that in America. I mean, I appreciate that, and that's real history, and that ought to be taught. But the idea, if what you're telling me is that critical race theory is it pits us against, the indigenous peoples of the Americans or folks that have, African descent. I mean, that's what makes America so beautiful. And as long as we can continue to attain this, which I think we have, is that we can set aside all of our differences and rally around that one Constitution, that one Bill of Rights that says at the end of the day, you can worship anyone, that the government will not tell you who to worship. We don't have an official church like the Church of England, or, we're not a homogeneous society like China or Japan.
Right.
We're a mixture of everyone from every corner of the world. And here you have a real opportunity to succeed and attain the American dream.
Absolutely.
As long as we can keep that viable and attainable for people, we will continue to be a great country. But let me say this, the way to attain that and to make that theory viable is through education. And that's what's scary about critical race theory. If what you and Julio are telling us, the purpose is to destroy those tenets of what makes our Western way of thinking
absolutely.
the best.
And when you see these assignments, I've debated folks on the Young Turks program that refused to actually debate it. They were one of the ones that says it's not even taught in school or it doesn't exist. But your idea, what you said about bringing people together, or folks from diverse backgrounds, that's where the left stops. They don't want the rest of your statement of enjoying America and coming together as Americans.
Right.
And what you see in these examples, a child coming home in elementary school being told that because of the color of her skin, she is oppressing people.
Or because her daddy wears a badge to enforce the
Exactly.
civil society laws passed through a democratic process. Her daddy is a horrible person.
Right.
Really?
He's a bad guy. And what the left ignores is that society in general wants law and order. They want race relations to be good. It's the radical left that's fighting it. And I go back to a point that you make. I call it the Japanese automaker strategy. Because in the 1970s, the Japanese didn't care about making the best car in the world. They knew that they wanted to have that be the best car in 20 years. They didn't care about tomorrow. They cared about the 20-year plan, and that's what the left does. They have a plan, and that's why they've infiltrated media, big tech, education, on and on.
Editorial boardrooms, the entertainment industry. I mean, the forces that we as conservatives and freedom-loving people, liberty-loving people have to fight are almost, it seems at times, insurmountable. But that's why it's so refreshing to have people like Julio, that it's the next generation that's actually fighting for
Exactly.
the concepts of liberty, free markets. And are free markets perfect? Absolutely not. But there's nothing better, as Milton Friedman used to say,
And I
than the
and I
free
was
market,
gonna
how
ask,
it levels itself.
I was going to ask Julio, I mean, you're way younger than us, of course. And what is the biggest challenges you're seeing in your generation and the future generations? Like, I have twins, they're 16 years old, and I can see, not in my kids because they're very conservatives, but in the other kids around them. But what is the biggest challenge that you see try to make a difference?
The biggest challenge, to be honest, is just having the ideas be presented to them, period. Because, again, like me, if that professor didn't show up in my life, I would possibly never come across the ideas. I would still, again, hold the same values of I want to help somebody prosper. And I think everybody in general in society wants to not see poverty, wants to not see children suffer or people just be victims of circumstances that weren't under their control. It's just that in our education system and in our community, we've basically deferred trying to help others to the government. We've been taught that, I'm not sure how it was when you guys went to school, but when I went to school, they very much demonized capitalism. They had the Gilded Age, the robber barons, all this stuff, and then didn't talk about, okay, well, if they didn't exist, what wouldn't we have? They talk about hoarding wealth. They talk about, it's because going back to what Bob said, is that it's a tribal mentality. Going back to our nature, when we're in a tribe, in small groups, if somebody has a lot than everybody else, it's probably because they're doing nefarious things. They're either keeping secrets, they're either being betrayers of your society, and it's in our nature to be suspicious of inequality between those that have and those that have less. We just need somebody to tell them, like, well, they have more because they provided service to their fellow members of society, that in overall it aggregated to them just having more. When people were freaking out about Jeff Bezos making a lot of money over the COVID, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people thought, like, well, he must have rigged the system. I mean, how can you be winning when everybody else is suffering? And I'm like, it doesn't take that much of an intellectual leap to think, like, well, he's succeeding because probably more people are using his online services. To borrow a term from the hard left would be, you want to eat the rich, then okay, we destroyed Jeff Bezos. How are you going to get your food? How are you going to get your packages when you can't go out to these stores and buy stuff? I mean, we would have, if the pandemic hit us like 10, 15 years ago, we would have been caught with our pants down. It would have been harder for people to actually survive. We would have had more people trying to rush into grocery stores when the government was still saying, like, you shouldn't go out. I think Jeff Bezos did a good job. I in that aspect, I think he did. But even then, those the people that have succeeded from a free market, sometimes they also don't know the ideas of a free society, of why they got there. Again, going back to Jeff Bezos, he got bullied into raising the minimum wage. He did it. He said, $15 minimum wage across all of Amazon companies. Good for him. If he can do it, he can do it. But then what did he do? He turned around and said, now I'm going to start lobbying to make that a national thing for everybody. Either he is unaware that by doing that, he's making the life of small businesses even more miserable. He's going to make the life of small businesses in the Midwest, where the cost of living is not that high, more miserable.
Well, let me. Can I jump in? Can I jump in real quick? I love that point.
Yeah.
We're seeing the results of minimum wage. Everybody's complaining that you used to be able to buy gasoline for $1.39, and now you're paying $3 for regular unleaded.
Yeah.
That's because, in that gallon of milk that you paid $3 for, now you're paying $6 for, or that loaf of bread that you used to pay $1.89, now you're paying $3.15. Because the baker and because that farmer has to pay their employees $15, now $20 an hour, the cost of everything goes up, because guess what? The farmer's not going to absorb that. He's not going to mortgage his pickup truck and his barn and a couple of tractors so that he can absorb the cost. He's going to pass it on to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is the government, run economic operation. It sounds great. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm going to get $15 an hour versus the $12.50 I'm making now, because the government is going to tell my employer to pay me $15." What people don't realize, and what Bezos, I can't believe somebody Bezos only supports it because he's trying to protect himself so he doesn't be seen by society as one of the robber barons.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
He's afraid of being, like the Rockefeller, and people don't realize how much great people of wealth like that contribute, and I don't care what their politics exactly. Whether it's Gates through their foundation, whether it's the Rockefellers, what they've donated and contributed to this country, whether it was Howard Hughes, people don't understand through their generosity. America has achieved great things in science and in medicine because of the generosity of these individuals. So Bezos and Gates and to some extent Warren Buffett, they go for this crap. I think deep down in their heart, they know that $15 minimum wage or $20 minimum wage is going to increase the loaf of bread.
Exactly.
They don't care. They want to insulate themselves from those outside the walls of Versailles, the French that are coming after me.
Right, yeah. Right, exactly. They made their mark, and now they're going to protect themselves. Another point that Julio made that was fantastic was this natural, because the left plays off this natural suspicion that if someone does become successful in this tribe, what happened, what was wrong. You know, they're suspicious of that. It doesn't seem fair. And that's just natural, and the left will play off that. They don't take it to the next level, which shows, you know, psychological study after study after study shows that if you show people and say, well, you know what, this person made more because they did more. And do you agree that we should just distribute this to people who have done nothing? No one will go for that. They see the merit reward system of capitalism, and they buy into that, and the left leaves that part out.
And you know, I love the immigrant community. I watch with amazement sometimes how immigrants come here and they may become what we call a paletero in the barrio, or they buy a truck and
El
operate
taquero.
el taconazo, for example. You know, they're operating, and then the next thing you know, they have carnicerias and panaderias, and then all of a sudden they're franchising those, and now they're
Right.
multimillionaires.
Yeah.
These are like immigrants whose only aspiration was to live under freedom,
Right.
and in a capitalist society where their industry, not necessarily their mind, but their industry would provide a service to the society that appreciated it, responded. And so that's why you have carnicerias and
Panaderias.
panaderias. You know, we have a lot of friends.
Taquerias.
Andrea and I have a lot of friends that we've seen do exactly this and become multimillionaires in short order as immigrants to this country. And that's why I think, you know, the left gets so frustrated.
Right.
That's why they want to destroy the free market. They want to create this envy among the class. I mean, it's classic Karl Marx. And guys, it's been tried
Absolutely.
in Cuba. It doesn't result in anything.
Right. It doesn't work. And the appreciation you have of people who make it, it's just, and I remember in school, you know, you'd have immigrants come over, or from the Asian community. All of a sudden, you know, these kids are showing up in school with names like Steve and Jennifer, because
Yeah.
the kids, that the parents said, you're going to have American names, you know, and the parents, they just said, you know, my generation, it's all working toward you, our kids. And we're going to do whatever it takes. We're going to do whatever business, whatever we can, so that you get educated and you can grow and be Americans. And it's fascinating.
Yeah, and I
want
to see, you know, Julio talks about, I mean, I studied at the University of Houston under a mentor who was a professor who taught classical liberalism, you know, the
Right.
old conservative
Yeah.
classical
Yes.
liberalism, where we read books like John Locke and he talked about the need for a civil society, right? I mean, and that's why conservatives, for anybody watching this show, it's like we're not anti-government. We realize that we do need laws, that we need a civil society, because, you know, if everybody got to gather their own acorns and not share those, and, you know,
That's
I mean,
right.
it becomes like John said, it's a state of nature,
Right,
right?
right.
I'm bigger and stronger than you, so I get to whack you and kill you
Right.
and take your property, right?
Exactly.
So we as a society have come together and said, no, that's wrong. I mean, you know, I can't whack Bobby and steal his house because I like his car, his Ferrari, and, you know, his Lamborghini. There are laws against that we agree with. But what we as conservatives try to do is to limit the size and power of government, right?
That's right.
To not squelch our ability to be creative and to produce and to generate wealth for our family. So we're not against government. We're just against a stifling, suffocating, huge, bloated government. That's basically what conservatives fight for.
We have comments.
We have comments.
We have
Oh, my
Nice.
goodness.
Oh, great.
We have comment from one of our dear friends, Chris Young. So he said, interesting, who was elected president in 2016? Wonder why that number has changed. And then he said, I don't know what the hard left is. Maybe it's me, but I don't think so. The one thing I can say is that the average income for the American household has gone up through COVID. The fact that I am listening to a conservative saying the billionaire is bad doesn't make me laugh a little bit. So, and then Courtney say, good to see you, Bobby.
Oh,
when
Good
are
to
you
see-
coming back to RGB?
oh, great.
And then we have somebody saying, that's more and more common, but don't you see much of journalism becoming selective commentary?
Well, there is
that-
no
yeah.
journalism.
Right, right. And that one, you see it more and more. The straight news shows of the past have given way to opinion journalism.
I mean, there are still journalists. You just
Right.
have to find them. You know, they don't have the banner of CNN, New York Times, and the Washington Post, and you know, the L.A. Times, and the Tribune, and the Dallas Morning News. and to some extent the Houston Chronicle. But if you go to the Epoch Times and if you go to the Conservative Thinker, I mean, and they don't have to be conservative. I do appreciate reading a position from a journalist or an essay that argues points on our side. I do appreciate that, but there's very little journalism now.
Right, there's very little,
Sorry,
and you appreciate when people dig. I shared on Facebook just the other day an article from The Atlantic, which I usually can't stand, but it was a person who was digging into the fact that more and more colleges decided, or they felt the need to put out a statement on the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. Like they're picking a side where in colleges of all places, universities of all places, they should say, here's the verdict, discuss. You know, you agree with it, you don't agree with it, but they're picking a side. So they're saying that speech contrary to that is really not allowed or condoned at this university.
Julio, let's get back to what I called classical liberalism being taught at universities. Do you see that those positions are being given to students so that they can make a determination between Karl Marx and, let's say, John Locke? You know, how do you see that on the ground?
I would say it's not as often as it should be. With the professors that we do work with, it is obviously more prevalent. The method we try to go about is not indoctrination, saying, you know, like this is the right way. We give them, depending on the topic, certain books to read. They come to discuss. They all have, for lack of a better word, a safe space to say what their opinion is. And we try to create an environment where people can just freely express it and show their criticism of other people's opinion in a productive manner. A lot of the students that attend our events end up, the feedback is, you know, this is actually what I expected college to be. This is the first class that I feel like actually is what college should have been. So I think we are making change. Part of those students end up that first encounter these ideas, they also get inspired by some of the professors they meet, and then they want to do that work. So we're there to help them throughout the way. They're undergraduate students that want to go to grad school, we help them on that. If they're graduate students that want to go to academia, we help them on that. And that's really that we have those three audiences, and that we're trying to get people that are interested in going to academia that have the ideas of liberty to be successful, to be a fountain for the ideas of liberty to be dispersed. Because, like I said, it just takes one professor that's willing to speak out. That as each class comes through year after year, he's going to be saying the same ideas, saying, you know, we should trust in the individual. And then hopefully, you know, out of, let's say, 2,000, 3,000 students they have in 30 years, they 10% of them actually take action on these ideas. That's 300 new people that are inspired and actually know what information they need to actually make a change in society. We're working to try to have more professors be open to at least, you know, showing the different side of things. We don't try to paint anybody in the negative light and say, you know, these are the evil people or these are the people that are lying to you. We just say, here are the ideas that are in front of you. Which one do you think is actually working? Which one's actually going to achieve the goal that you're trying to shoot for?
Yeah, and I look, and there are a lot of great organizations across the country, too, that I can think of as the Free Enterprise Institute, for example. They try to do similar things. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, Julio. And then, of course, I got exposed to a nonprofit organization that publishes the classical liberalism, you know, the old, all of the writings of the West from the Greeks through the Romans through, you know, the era of John Locke, and that's the Liberty Fund. Anybody can go there and buy the old classical liberalism books and read those. You don't need to depend on your professor, you know, that is tenured and can do the crazy things that, you know, universities allow them to do. But so go to the Liberty Fund and order some books, participate, donate, get involved with the Free Enterprise Institute or the Institute for Humane Studies, as Julio has been doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. And I mean, Julio faces a huge challenge with getting this message out to college campuses because they've just gone more and more left. I read a book recently, The Coddling of the American Mind. It talks about Gen Z and why they're so sensitive and need these safe spaces. And part of it is the universities have gone so left. And it's these departments that in political science and some of these others might have been like 3 liberals to 1, where even that one guy could still do some research that kind of counters it, where you're not having confirmation bias and just everyone agreeing. Now some of these departments are 10 to 1, 17 to 1, liberal to conservative.
And let me remind, and I'm going to let Andrea jump in here in a minute because I feel like I've sucked up a lot of the time. But, but think about this. A majority of the states are run by governors and legislatures that are conservative. Who appoints the Board of Regents?
Right.
Why have we as conservatives allowed a free pass to universities that are supported by the public? I think we need to be demanding, and I tell people every time I go speak, that the taxpayers need to demand of our elected officials that they hold the Board of Regents accountable for this crap that goes on, whether it's the University of Texas, whether it's Texas A&M, whether it's Texas Tech, whether it's OU, whether it's all of the public institutions across the conservative states. Why are we allowing the liberal wacko lefts? We're paying them $280,000 a year, over $250,000 of salary, to sit there and spew out the liberal left, America-hating, freedom, They just want to do away with the Constitution that it only serves certain classes and tribes, as you say. We should not allow that.
Right. Yeah.
We don't have much time, so Julio, we want, as I always call, the call to action. What will be the call to action for other people help you to help in the council?
So if you want to see a change in higher academia, obviously a lot of us here do. I'm guessing a lot of the audience member does too. Unfortunately, each of us as individuals don't have the resources to make those changes. However, we do have the fruits of our labor. So what I would ask is if you can donate to IHS, go to theihs.org/donate, and you can donate through there. The way I see it is, you have the resources, however, you don't have the machine to actually get the output that you want, a change in higher education for the ideas of liberty to spread. So put it to an organization or a mechanism that can create those ideas, that can make that change. And IHS, as far as I know, is the only one that actually does take this method of trying to change society, of trying to get the ideas of freedom to maintain and thrive in academia. So again, that is the ihs.org/donate. And you can donate through there.
All right. Well said, Julio. We want to thank you for contributing part of your day to our program. We want to wish you the very best. I want to say that Julio was a presenter down in San Antonio when we had our Leadership Latino class. Hopefully, we'll be able to wrangle him and bring him out to El Paso. He's we got a lot of great comments, Julio. Congratulations. We hope to see you in Houston. We hope you stay in Texas. We hope that you run for office someday. We'll be supporting you. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you for your time.
Enjoyed it.
And
it was
and
fun,
always
folks.
willing to step in.
Thank you.
It's going to give me a little break to be able to go do things. And allow you to come in on Wednesdays.
Don't get too comfortable.
Right, yeah, he's texting us from all these locations across the country. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So,
well, you say bye to the program because I have bad allergies.
You have bad allergies. All right. Well, look, Julio was talking about his Institute for Humane Studies needs contributions to succeed to implement their vision across college campuses. We, too, operate on donations. We're here because of the generosity of great Texans that want to make sure that Texas continues to have reasonable conservative leadership into the future. We can do that, making sure that the Latino, Hispanic community, that's what we focus on. We want everybody to be together. I mean, we've had candidates of every stripe on this program, but our mission within the conservative movement is to ensure that Latinos and Hispanics and conservatives and Tejanos work together to keep the system of free enterprise, limited government, freedom-loving individuals in charge in the state of Texas. It has served us well, and we need to make sure that we continue that route. So go to our webpage, it's TexasLatinoConservatives.com, and help us out. Make a small donation, $5 or $10. You can become a member. You can come sign up for our Leadership Latino classes. Our next one is going to be at the end of January in El Paso, Texas. We've been traveling the entire state. I'm going back down to the RGV in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
Hopefully
great.
we'll see
Yeah.
you down there.
Yeah, I'd love to go, Courtney.
And
I got to.
you
yeah.
had some statistics. I don't think, did you ever go run through them real
No,
quick?
no. If we have a minute,
Yeah, we have 1 minute.
Okay, yeah, just really quick for folks at home, all the effort that Texas Latino Conservatives and others are doing is making a difference. Because I tell you what, if the Democrats lose the Hispanic vote, they have lost. They are shut out, and we are making gains. President Trump, there was a poll, he got 26% of the Hispanic vote in 2016. He got 34% in 2020. Now polling among Hispanics, he's actually gone up 4 points. Hispanics are turning away from Joe Biden. They think the Democrats are pushing crazy socialist policies. That was actually a question. And I love the way they worded it, because people they really think that some of these Democrat leftists has gone freaked out. Yeah. Far left, they're not buying it.
Yeah, and crime in our neighborhoods, they
Yep.
see the consequence. You know, everybody thinks that illegal immigration is just affecting our Tejanos and our friends down in South Texas. It affects people in Houston. The barrios are getting overrun with gang members and sex trafficking. You know, people recruiting young kids to drive as human smugglers across the state. It affects every neighborhood in Texas. In the meantime, the liberal left wants to defund police. They want to shut down academies. The Latino community memo to the Democrats love, their police. They love a police officer keeping order in the neighborhood. And so that's not a winning message. Open borders is not a winning message. Trashing the military, our law enforcement, first responders, is not a winning message. Spewing out socialism and Marxism in our schools and teaching as was defined earlier, critical race theory, we ain't buying it. That's one of my favorite lines. I say what the Democrats and Robert Francis O'Rourke are selling in Texas, we ain't buying.
Right.
and you can see that in the polls.
Absolutely. And it's like you said earlier. I mean, we have people that are either directly or maybe just a generation removed from escaping socialism, escaping the tyranny. And this is what the Democrats are selling. Right.
All right. Well, Andrea, I hope you feel better.
Yeah.
She's suffering allergies, as every time this year she goes through this.
Yeah,
may
horrible.
have to take her to our doctor friend to get
I
well
need
again.
it.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. We're sorry we were about a minute or two late today. That's why we say our program begins at 11 a.m. más o menos. So we'll see you next week. I hope you have a wonderful week, and join us again a week from today. Thank you, and God bless.
Nos vemos. Chao, chao. Gracias.
See you.